Hi there, it's Martin from Cake Wonder Europe. And as much as I would love to say that this is part of the newest part of my collection, I am in fact at my very, very good friend Chris King's. How would we describe this? We've always said it's like the Planet Hollywood room, haven't we?
It is Planet Hollywood. Or
The Planet Hollywood room.
The Chrisonian, somebody called it the other day.
Oh, really? What you should probably understand before we go any further is that Chris and I have known each other for, what, 450 years?
At least.
We've been doing Superman, shall we say, for a very, very long time. And Chris, if you care to look back at his history in terms of Superman related projects, he was the first guy to do the one-to-one statue. We've kind of, I would say, consulted, but in every release, in every official release of Superman figures and every custom Superman figure there's ever been, we've kind of both, if not had a hand in it, then we've certainly been around for...
Certainly putting some input into it.
There's been input, yeah. Or we've, we've done our damnedest to try and influence things in advance to have things done in a certain way and achieve a certain quality, because as we come into these latest offerings from JND Studios. Now, this could be an unboxing video, but what's the point in that when we can get stuck straight into these beautiful pieces? And as always, when it comes to this kind of thing, you and I, Chris, are very skeptical, are we not?
Absolutely. Well, the photos that I'd seen online of this and videos, even the best videos, sometimes were, it was at polar opposites. Some of them looked fantastic, others looked, it needs a lot of work doing, which obviously we're far too down the line now to have anything done because they're in production and they're churning them out. But actually opening the box and seeing it in person for the first time, all of my doubts about the sculpt and the detailing and everything just went away. I was speechless when I took it out of the box.
Is Christopher Reeve the hardest person to sculpt on God's green earth?
He does seem to be. Lots of people miss some of his key features.
Second only to William Shatner, maybe?
Yeah, quite possibly.
We'd have to say, wouldn't we, that in terms of quality and in terms of likeness and in terms of finish and in terms of accuracy, isn't this as good as it gets?
I've not seen anything better, and as you say, it's taken advantage of all the 3D printing and the advances in 3D sculpting now. Because a lot of these, from what I saw on the JND videos, the portraits were done in 3D, and I think they create castings from them, which they then refine with traditional sculpting tools. But the actual original sculpts themselves are now done with in 3D on the computer and then 3D printed. JND Studios must have some incredibly powerful 3D printers to do this, particularly on the Superman, because of the intricate detailing of the texture of the costume, which is outstanding. To even at very, very close range, it looked like fabric.
We're going to talk about him in detail. We're going to go from one to the other, and we're going to give it a damn good working over in terms of what it is versus what it represents.
Perfect timing for its release, really, with the Superman documentary, of course, that just came out, and then the buzz and the hype surrounding the new James Gunn movie coming out next year, or this year now even. It's as both of us feel, this is always going to be our Superman, and the fact that we've waited so long for something like this to come out, and I've said it on some of the forums that I go onto, I can't see any company surpassing this, possibly ever.
It's almost been 50 years. I mean, why? And it must be true what fans, I mean, we know what we think of it, but it must be true what fans say, and the effect, the longevity that this young man back in the day, what he managed to do with a performance. Incredible to think. I'm struggling to kind of think of a comparison, really, in this modern age, of how somebody is so completely associated with a character. I mean, in the end, it might not have even have done him any good or his career in the eventuality of things. But then, what a legacy to have!
Absolutely.
50 years later, people are, we're still talking about it.
And still holding him up on the pedestal of being the best Superman. And we've had a lot of them since.
We've had a great deal of it since, and the material is still being recycled, for want of a better expression. But and it doesn't kind of, I don't know how you feel, but it kind of doesn't matter how many times that they do it. It doesn't matter how many times they remake the same story. It doesn't matter how many different actors portray him. It doesn't seem to make one jot of difference to the fact that this one man is going to be associated with this character for all time.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think any other actors have had that, the aeronautical side of training that Chris had got with his gliding and understanding how things move in the air and how to move his body. As good as the actors are that have portrayed their characters since, nobody's really got that natural flying feel to them that Chris managed to do when he was, in the blue screen studio, or even on the flying harness.
I do kind of feel fortunate to live in an age where these things are so well documented now that we've kind of got the whole kind of picture. We've got the whole story of it, and we can, and everything that's kind of new that comes up that we learn or we find just kind of adds to that story and just makes it all the more exciting.
It is. It's fascinating.
Almost 50 years.
50 years.
It's ridiculous.
And we're still finding out new things and seeing new photos that we've never seen before.
Yep.
Like that fantastic prop store auction recently with the brilliant 8x10 close-up of Chris.
Yes, from Superman 2.
Yeah, from Superman 2 with all of that detail. That even now that's still showing up. That's the great thing about the hobby and being into this kind of thing that I like. The same with the Indiana Jones and Star Wars films and all of those things back from the 70s and 80s.
Absolutely.
The fact that people are still regularly putting things on Instagram, for example, photos that I'd never seen before, and I thought I'd seen all of it, but
it's true.
Barely scratched the surface, really.
We're going to do what other videos have not done, and we're going to go 360 with this. So if we're going to pull this out, Chris, if you would, we're going to start on Clark Kent, and we're going to go all the way around. Clark Kent. Great stand. This plinth, Superman the movie at the bottom. A nice subtle stand, actually. I like the way it's divided between, you've got two worlds literally bordered off. We've got the Metropolis sewer cover there. We've got Clark's lace-ups.
On Clark's boots, there are actual real laces. I'm not sure if they actually do up, but they have gone to the point of putting real laces into them. Try and light that up a bit.
Briefcase, replicated, as far as I can tell, completely faithfully, even though it is a solid unit. It's not made from leather. It's, what is it, resin or something?
Resin, I think, yeah. Some people were disappointed about that they hadn't done an actual leather case, but in a lot of these instances and decisions that JND have made, you can understand when you see it why they've done it, because they didn't want to do anything that took away from the believing that it was a scaled down version of the one-to-one items. So with the case, even if they'd have made that out of real leather with a fine grain to it, I don't think it would have looked as realistic as it does being sculpted.
Just look at that unmistakable profile. I love what they did with the glasses.
Yes.
And there was a big
fold the arms of those back as well. They put a little tiny metal pivot point at the corner of the glasses so you can actually close them and fold them down.
I love the fact that they've gone to the effort of giving him that. I mean, it reminds me of it's the scene where Any More at Home Like You.
Yeah, exactly.
Not really, no. And he just, he could have said that. He could have actually spoken that just. Details on the tie, 100%. Vest, wide lapelled 70s style jacket.
Yeah.
Even the
handkerchief.
The handkerchief.
Yeah.
The pocket.
I think
the pocket
I'm going to
square.
mess that up a little bit because it's perfectly precision creased at the moment. But when you look at Chris, it was just stuffed into.
It was stuffed in there. And last but not least, the trilby. And if we just snap that out of his hand, Chris, you can see that the nature of this silicone hand that literally grips it like Isn't that something? It's just crazy. And yes, it's worth mentioning that these are silicone head sculpts, beaded eyes, and punched hair. Now, as we've found out time and time again with this kind of thing, the hair is such a bone of contention with everything that, it's a really, for a basic style, I mean, it's only a side parting, as we can see here. But if there's anything about that hair that doesn't look right, even more so on the Superman, which we'll get to in a second, if there's anything about it which doesn't look right, the whole thing gets thrown off. Now, it's always been eyebrows, hasn't it, with everything that we've ever seen.
I know I had a big thing about that.
Eyebrows make or break everything. The raincoat, beige, single-breasted, which, again, is something that I didn't actually... I just made the assumption that the raincoat that he had in Superman the movie was a double-breasted one like he wore in Superman 4. Not the case. And when you watch the film closely, I mean, they've done their homework, JND here. You can't deny that. They've really, really gone to that next level to, there's a shoulder seam there that's beautiful. And the way that it's draped here. So they've given consideration to everything. They've given consideration to the pose. They've given consideration to the expression. They've given consideration to the details. If we're going to nitpick, we'll think the collar buttons are a bit large, but for God's sake,
send it back.
Unlike other reef sculpts, where the terminology we've always used is it's bang off.
Yeah.
This is bang on. And, we're such nitpickers because I think we're so completely unobjectively attached to the subject matter that we can't not be complete nitpickers, can we?
There's a lot to be said for the fact that we've grown up, from 1978 to now, throughout all of our childhood and into our adult life, we've grown up loving and watching these movies and seeing Chris Reeve's portrayal of the character. It does, whatever anybody else says, it does get ingrained into your memory.
It does. So you know, don't you?
Straight away, even if you're not looking at side by side with a reference photo, you know something's off.
That's wrong, yeah.
Because you're so familiar with the face of the character, having
that's right.
Enjoyed the
contours of the chin here, that slight smirk. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
It is fabulous. Moving on. Here he is, Man of Steel himself. It's taken the longest time, but finally, somebody has gone to the trouble of actually looking at the details of these boots and the construction of them with everything like these supports in the cleft of the V of the boot, the seam going into what we term the ballet shoe style of the boot. And what are these even made of? They're not leather, so are they sculpted?
Resin. It's everything on Superman.
So everything in this costume,
except for the cape, which is fabric, obviously, but the rest of it is.
Can you believe, folks, that isn't cloth? I mean, I don't know how they've done this.
No, it's 3D sculpted and printed, but having done 3D printing myself, I know that you get the layering effects with a printer, so they must have an extremely high quality, very high resolution 3D printer to be able to do something that captures all of the details of this, the tiny wrinkles in the costume and the actual weave texture of it as well.
Yes.
Which matches up with the waffle weave.
The waffle weave. There it is.
Lucky enough to see in
there it is.
Ourselves.
Yvonne Blake's Helenka.
It's worth pointing out as well that the colour of the blue that it's showing up here on the video is the same effect that actually happened when they were making the film with the costume. The costume itself that JND have done, I don't know whether Warner Brothers had provided them with an accurate colour code for the dye mix that was used on the original costume, but out of all of the things that have been released, be they replicas or statues, I've never seen anyone capture the colour as accurately as JND have done, particularly on the blue. Most specifically on the blue, which is more of a teal, greeny blue. When
absolutely.
And
that's what zealots like us appreciate.
Yes.
Because if you just go and whack a navy blue in there, we're going to go, Didn't do your homework. And it just things, I mean, exemplified by, look at that shield. I mean, even now, they're not getting this simple, the shapes, the dynamic, the overall finesse of this shield correct. I mean, you look at the McFarlane that's just come out now, and it just looks like I mean, the Hasbro one looked like a Haribo stuck onto his chest. The McFarlane one looks like a 5-year-old's drawn it. Yeah, and you look at this, and you're like, well, you know, there it is. That's how it looks.
Beautifully done as well around the edges, where the yellow fabric is sewn in from behind.
They have even raised the small segments, so the 3 outer triangles, the curve on that one, the cleft there, and the bottom one has a raised rib around the edge, which is exactly how the originals were finished, because those pieces were too small to integrate like the larger ones are here. If you read my article on the about the costume on my site, all that's explained in great detail. But look at this. There he is, folks. That unmistakable profile, those sideburns, and those piercing blue eyes. The trouble they went to get this wave in the hair. The kiss curl is actually part of the wave.
Yes.
It were it not for the fact that it's looped on itself, that would be part of that.
Which is what he did in Superman 4, isn't it?
Which is what he just left it in Superman 4, and he just let it break away kind of naturally, which I really liked. It was kind of more comic book accurate, I suppose, but for the time when John Byrne was drawing him. But you know, look at that. To my eyes, and I think you'll agree, Chris, that this is absolutely Chris from 77.
It's brilliantly done, yeah.
77 from the from shooting at not Pinewood.
Shepperton, was it?
At Shepperton for the fortress scenes. Very early days with him. Still not quite there in terms of you know, the size he was going to be, the refinement of the costume.
Yes, he's not quite as big as he was in Arizona, is he?
No, not for the desert scenes, which I would consider to be like archetypal. But here, he's early days. The hair is still quite poofy, is the term that I keep hearing. But I mean, it's probably fair to say that it was a hairpiece at this stage, and they hadn't quite refined it where it's quite slicked back at the sides. But I think that's what makes it. The only issue I'd probably have with this is that the S is a bit bold on the back, and that border's a bit too bold as well. Apart from that, though, it's a lovely light fabric.
Yeah, it drapes
and it
really
drapes
nicely.
beautifully, yeah.
The thing which the video might not pick up as well is that there is almost like a glittery, sparkly effect on the costume to represent the kind of metallic sheen that the original fabric had.
It does have that, which is extraordinary. Another thing about the original costume, in case you didn't know, was that if you read Yvonne Blake's original designs, the word shimmering is used.
Oh yes, she actually does that on her original.
She uses the word shimmering,
yeah.
And that is exactly the correct terminology for what that fabric is. Again, if you've not seen one of these costumes in real life, you're really missing out, because it's we've not been able to capture it. We've not been able to capture essentially what it is completely.
No.
How it responds to light is, and you could write a book on it, which I'm trying to do.
Well, the classic example was when Prop Store originally displayed their costume at the Movium, as it was in London. You and I went to that exhibition, and
we did.
Stood there in the same lighting conditions, and your camera compared to my camera picked up the suit colour
totally different things. Yeah,
completely differently, and that was in the same, standing side by side, taking a photo of the same thing. So it is incredible how the camera lenses pick up the colours of these things.
Yeah, that's how long we've been at this. When you think back,
Yes, it is.
We've like laboured so long and so hard to try and like unlock the mystery of these things. And this kind of does feel like it feels like the combination of it in a lot of ways. They are so beautifully done. And far more lifelike than these images that I'm taking right now, and far more lifelike than any photograph that I've seen from anybody lucky enough to own them has been able to capture.
It's interesting to note that, Martin, your reaction to it was no reaction. It was a reaction of speechlessness, which is exactly what I felt like when I took it out of the box. It was, you've built yourself up to thinking, I'm not going to like this, I'm disappointed in this, based on the photos I've seen of it online, and even some of the good videos of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Nothing prepared me or you for how realistic and how good it is when you're actually standing right in front of it.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting it to be anywhere near as captivating as it is. It's nice to be, it just reminds you of him.
That's the thing. At the end of the day, he was my childhood hero, and he went in adult life with the way Chris handled himself after his disability, after his accident. He was inspirational in different ways, as an adult man, inspired by the way he dealt with his family and his own injuries. So going from childhood superhero to humanity hero. He's a lot to look up to, and he is inspiring. Even now, he's gone now for a long time, and it's still inspiring. And so great to have a statue like this in this form.
A genuinely fitting tribute.
It is. That's the word, tribute.
A genuinely fitting tribute.
Is.
Something that honours his legacy.
These two pieces in particular, I was really amazed to see that I'd got edition number 78, which was so fitting.
What are the chances?
Being released in 78, and that was not something that I asked for.
No,
that
you
was
couldn't.
Just pure luck of the draw.
Yeah. Serendipity. As I get older, I believe in it more and more. But these are just a joy to see, and if you're lucky enough to own them, I hope you're enjoying them just as much as I am. It's been a hell of a year, folks. 24, 2 documentaries about this man, no less. Neither of which you can sit through without being emotional, for want of a...
Even the trailer for me, the Superman documentary got me just for 2 minutes of that.
And it doesn't show any signs of slowing down, this whole business. Who knows where or what is going to happen next with this. AI is starting to get borderline terrifying, I know that much. And I remember when people were protesting about him showing up in The Flash.
Yes.
Good Lord, what a furore that was. And now look. Oh, it's fantastic. And that's exactly what I'm going to leave it. Let us know what you think, folks. If you've got them, if you haven't got them, if you like what you see, let us know. Let's talk about it.
Quoting our good friend Jim Bowers, stay super.
Stay super.